The absolute state of Path of Exile 2 0.3, the Third Edict so far, is crazy. We had a massive surge of players on Steam due to the free weekend and excellent retention going on to day 10. We have a meta absolutely dominated by Deadeyes, but a lot of other classes and skills are still viable, though probably not optimal. We'll talk about why. Despite huge success and enjoyment from the vast majority of the community, there are still some big problems with the game, including visual clarity, degens on death, performance, balance disparity, and power disparities between classes, and Endgame, but to a much lesser degree than before. People have come together on the biggest wins for the game, including Act 4 and the interludes, the addition of crafting through new omens, Abyss, and the new currency orbs, and the market is just superb. People are enjoying just staying in the game and logging in the morning and seeing a slew of currency sitting in their hideout. But even within this enjoyment, there is still some debate, especially on the campaign. Will grinding gear games actually cave and give a campaign skip option at the end of the day? I don't think so. Finally, will there be more patches for this PoE2 expansion, or are we done until December? Grinding Gear Games has been especially quiet lately. Either they're already cooking that big extra patch for Path of Exile 2, or they have moved on over to Path of Exile 1 and 3.27. Then I must touch on it. Almost everybody has been loving the patch. Content creators, people in the community, and yes, even tourists like myself. Oh my goodness, I already have more hours in 0.3 than I had all across Dawn of the Hunt. I am a tourist no longer. So my fellow exiles, make sure you sit back and relax or log into Path of Exile 2 and start grinding some maps or leveling up that next character, because we are breaking down the state of the game about 10 days into 0.3. If you'd like to see more of these videos in the future, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel with the sub notification bell on, and leave a comment below. It is the absolute best thing you can do to help support the channel. I appreciate all that support. Now, let's get right into it. We are kicking off with a visit to SteamDB to see that Path of Exile 2 is currently the 6th most played game on Steam right now. And this is early in the morning on Tuesday. The peak at this early hour is 181,263 players, and in the past 24 hours, 220,000. That's over a week into the expansion. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see that the overall peak for 0.3 on Steam alone, not counting standalone, which I play on, or consoles, was 353,657 players. Remember, it was a free-to-play weekend across all these platforms, so we had a huge spike and then a drop off after Monday. However, since then, it has remained pretty steady with another spike going into the weekend. This was not experienced with Dawn of the Hunt, which you can see reached 246,000 players and had a steep decline, especially going into week 2 and then week 3. We've still not reached that level yet for 0.3, but I reckon due to the changes to the market and all the new toys that we have to play with and the addictiveness of the Abyss mechanic, we will see much better player retention for this patch. And of course, we did not hit the heights of launch, which was 578,000 peak players, but I reckon if the game continues to improve and get into a better state, as we can all agree has happened with 0.3, we might be able to reach those numbers again one day and follow in the steps of the predecessor Path of Exile 1 and just see consistent growth once the game is actually launched into 1.0 and is free to play permanently. I thought it would be important to also look at the reviews on Steam just to get a gauge of what people are thinking. This is one of the best ways to do it. You can see there were very positive reviews in that initial launch, and then with Dawn of the Hunt, the negative reviews were absolutely tremendous. People were not enjoying the patch. They just did not want to play Path of Exile 2 and did not like the direction of the game. In fact, most of the reviews during the interim between 0.3 and 0.2 were negative, as you can see right here. Fortunately for Grinding Gear Games, that sentiment has changed for 0.3. Once again, most of the reviews are positive, and if you actually peek into the reviews themselves that are negative, most of the problems with players aren't due to the gameplay of Path of Exile 2, but the performance issues that so many people are experiencing, including myself. I never crashed before 0.3, and now I am getting rendering crashes every 20 minutes. I have tried all the solutions. I've swapped to Vulkan, I've downgraded drivers, I've decreased my graphical performance, I've cleared my cache. It's still happening to me. Although all those things I just mentioned have fixed things for other players. Regardless, it is one of the biggest problems Grinding Gear Games has yet to address. They've stayed very quiet on this, though of course they are aware that many people on PC, on PS5, on Xbox are having tremendous issues. We know they rewrote their renderer for this patch. They also made some other backend changes. Not sure if they'll revert it or really just try to iron everything out before that next big release in December of this year. Whatever they decide to do, they really need to work on this. This is the biggest overall problem for Path of Exile 2 right now. I think everybody can agree on that. The game needs to be in a playable state, not only for high-end PCs like the one that I have, but for consoles and everybody who cannot afford high-end PCs. You shouldn't be constantly crashing out or just getting terrible frames in the regular version of the game. I'm not even talking about juiced up maps. I'll keep banging that drum, you guys. I want it to be fixed as much as all of you. So Exiles, if we are looking at these player numbers right here and looking at the peaks, the valleys, how many people were playing on Steam alone, should we judge the free weekend as a success? I would say yes from the sentiment that I have seen. I've had many people in my comments saying they tried the game for the very first time with this free weekend and ended up buying it and loving it, though they have expressed that they are shocked at how shoddy the performance was. It also did help that Grinding Gear Games was giving out free cosmetic rewards for people who completed Act 1 during this free weekend. And the rewards are sick. Now, let's talk about the meta of 0.3 in terms of ascendancy disparity. And for this, I have this amazing graph created by my friend Sir Gog, which shows the breakdown of ascendancies per level. The inner rings represent lower levels and the outer rings represent higher levels. And you can see a single color dominates every single level of this circle. In the inner rings, it's a plurality, but as you move outward, it becomes a majority, even to the point of a supermajority, where the blue outweighs all the other ascendancies combined. Do we want to take a guess at what ascendancy the blue color is? Let me know in the comments below. Let's see if you were right. It's the Deadeye. The Deadeye as an ascendancy has absolutely dominated the early meta of Path of Exile 2, the Third Edict, followed by the Blood Mage and Invoker. And honestly, it's pretty easy to understand why if you just take a moment and you look at it. First of all, Deadeye is just ridiculously powerful. Yes, many people are playing Lightning Arrow on it, but you can actually play almost any skill on Deadeye and make it work. You get a whole bunch of raw movement speed, which is very powerful in Path of Exile 2, and it contributes to you being able to clear maps faster and progress quicker. And this is something that lots of people seek to do in that first week 1, week 2 of the league. They seek to get as far as possible into the Atlas, dominate the economy as much as possible to then fund their next build or just quit the league entirely. And Deadeye as an ascendancy has also been pushed by the biggest content creators around, so of course a lot of people are going to copy that and play that ascendancy. Completely ignoring the farming facet and the speedrunning facet, just look at the Deadeye and what it allows you to do as well if you're using a ranged build. It allows you to avoid some of the most debilitating effects in the game right now with Abyss, something you are encountering in every single map. You're able to blow everything up from range very quickly without needing to encounter any of the on-death effects, any of the ground degens, or any of that stuff. So it's very comfy for a lot of players, including my dad. However, you might look at that graph and think nothing else is viable and people are not enjoying classes and builds besides Deadeye and Lightning Arrow or Ice Shot. That's not the case at all. I started Hollow Palm Acolyte of Chayula. I blasted through the campaign, was very strong in Endgame, then swapped to Invoker. I've been having a great time. So have many other people playing Hollow Palm on many different ascendancies. We have Ritualists, we have Amazons, Invokers, Acolytes of Chayula, even Deadeyes. Then we have Warrior, which actually was pretty strong, and people are really enjoying Maces and the reworks there. I've seen almost nothing but praise for Warriors in hundreds and hundreds of comments on my own videos and thousands of posts across Twitter and Reddit and Discord. Despite the hate for early game spells as well, I've seen a lot of people absolutely love their Stormweaver and Blood Mage spell builds once they progress a good chunk into Endgame 2. And tacticians and other mercenary classes, don't even get me started on those. Those are ridiculous, some of the most powerful builds in the current league, and they do completely destroy any visual clarity on your screen. No abyss needed. Then we also have some pretty busted Reap builds that I've seen, which are super cool. I've also spotted just a couple Infernalists with demon form that are doing absolutely ridiculous amounts of damage in the game too, and people have just been having a blast on them. I've even seen a select few Pathfinders that are making acidic concoction work after a few of the bug fixes from early in the league. Now that I think about it, the only real Ascension class with a big L is the Chronomancer. Where are the Chronos? Do we have any Chronos watching this video? If we do, please let us know what you're playing in the comments below. I'm very curious. So when you look at this graph, it tells the story of Deadeyes just absolutely blasting through the game and progressing far, but that doesn't mean they are the only viable class in the game. Are they optimal alongside Lightning Arrow and Lightning Rod and Roas for clearing the game as quick as you can and either moving on to your next build or just leaving Path of Exile 2 until the next league? Yes, that is true. That is the current state of the game, and it is unfortunate. I do hope that Grinding Gear Games tries to address this, even though with every single patch, everyone, I think balance is just going to be completely thrown into disarray, especially if we're adding lots of new classes, abilities, and passives into the game during this early access period. What I legitimately hope they do is take some time during this interim 4 months and touch some of the skills and some of the passives, maybe some ascensions that don't feel as good or as powerful as the Deadeye. I really hope we don't wait until Christmas time to do more skill balance like we did with Dawn of the Hunt. Grinding Gear Games, don't abandon us. The game is so much fun. It would just be better if more skills were a little bit as viable as some of the top stuff right now. Just don't touch my hollow palm. I love hollow palm. I'll close out this section on the meta with just a message to everybody watching. There will always be a class that is most powerful in Path of Exile 2. This is an ARPG after all, and many people share the same goal of killing monsters as fast as possible, with as many colors on screen as possible. If that is your goal, yeah, you're going to want to play the most meta class. But if your goal is to solely have fun, move through the game at your own speed, and participate in a growing economy, many other builds are viable, and you can carve your own path in the game. Just because you see the game dominated by a single sect doesn't mean you need to participate in it, even if you feel you need to. Don't let the meta bring you down. Skipping on over to the biggest problems in Path of Exile 2 right now. They are mostly agreed upon by the entire PoE 2 community. The only people I see arguing against this are the Grinding Gear Games developers themselves. So let's talk about them. Number one, and it's not really number one, but I recently have encountered this a bunch in T15, so let's bring it up. Chilled Ground as a modifier has overtaken Temporal Chains as the worst map modifier in Path of Exile 2 that can roll on regular Waystones. This mod weakens your build to such a degree, it makes everything feel far more sluggish, not only your movement, but your attacks, all your skills. I hate it. It is more egregious than Ignited Ground, Shocked Ground, any of the temporal debuffs, even some of the mods that you can get with Desecrating Waystones. I have signed the petition. I'm clicking send to Grinding Gear Games. Please rework this mod again or just remove it from the game. Here's another clip from Reddit that just exemplifies another huge problem with the game. Visual clarity and on-death effects. With the addition of Abyss especially, which can get to these ridiculous degrees, visual clarity has become ridiculous in Path of Exile 2. You are unable to see what's going on even on busted builds, even in non-juiced maps, especially when you're interacting with Abyss and with Abyss itself. As you've probably experienced, there are a lot of on-death effects that constantly interfere with how you are interacting with the game. I love having the swarms of abyssal monsters arise from the cracks and attempt to conquer me. What I don't love is that a lot of them are green. They spawn green death effects on top of the green terrain, and those green on-death effects are what is killing me constantly. I know they are there to cause you to move and engage with the environment, but they're just so egregious, and I know they've been toned down with the recent hotfix. I still think they should be more telegraphed and less consistently appearing. Abyss monsters only have a few modifiers that exist right now on them, and there are only a few different types, and lots of them have these on-death effects or these degen effects that just completely desecrate the ground around you. It is especially a crime for melee builds like Hollow Palm or people using maces, especially if you're not one-shotting mobs. This isn't as much as a problem for Deadeyes as we talked about before. There are also a few combinations that you can get on these Abyss monsters, such as the Shroud Walker and the degen effect, so they keep teleporting on top of you with the degen on the ground dropped. Oof, that one is frustrating. And if you put Chilled Ground on the map too, oh, it's over for you. Now this is one that I just still don't agree with. People hate the Trial of the Sekima. I just hope they add the Trial of Ancestors as soon as possible, and it's very different from Trial of Chaos and the Trial of Sekima. I did get my butt kicked by Zarok. He had 5% HP remaining, and yes, maybe I had a little bit of a crash out moment on stream, but I still think it has a place to exist in the game, and if you really want to beat it, you just juice yourself up with relics, and you are very intent and smart on the way that you are progressing through the floors. It is, unfortunately, in many cases, I think, a skill or knowledge issue for this one. Am I wrong, guys? Let me know again in the comments below. Another thing I and many others agree with, skill balance is kinda all over the place with this patch, especially when it comes to combo potential. We touched on it earlier, but I think until they get the bulk of the skills in the game, skills are just going to be in disarray with every single update as they try to find the middle ground. There's some stuff that feels really good and impactful to use and play with, and there's a bunch of stuff that is just useless and just does not go together, and you can't really find ways for it to mash with another ability and feel good killing enemies with. And that is the whole point of Path of Exile 2. So alongside combo skill gameplay and just the overall balance of classes, these are two things that Grinding Gear Games just needs to keep actively trying to resolve patch after patch. And I do not envy them, because this is one of the biggest things that people get upset about, and it's also one of the hardest things to solve in a game as complex and as large as Path of Exile 2. We already touched on how performance is trash, and hopefully that's fixed ASAP. I'll also touch on Endgame for a moment here. I've played it for quite a while now, about 20 hours, most of that time now in T15s, and I've been having an absolute blast, especially engaging with Abyss. That is a W addition to Path of Exile 2's Endgame, and really pushes that one more map feeling. But you know what doesn't? The new boss maps. Those are extremely frustrating. The ones that you have to either complete surrounding maps or find some sort of key to unlock. I really don't like that design, especially if there's not a little bit more instruction on how to find these keys. You have the Mansion in the Mist where the sparkles are going around the map that you're supposed to go in to finish, but then with the other ones, it's just random. I've been trying to find a Karui totem for an Eye of the Storm for about an hour or two now, and I really want to fight that map boss, but I just can't because I can't find the Karui totem. And it's near some water, so there's a lot of surrounding maps and they're disconnected. It might just be a bricked map overall, so I really think that's something that GGG needs to take a second look at. And fortunately, we know they are, because Endgame is one of the biggest foci of 0.4, which drops in December, alongside the Druid. I had to slip that in there, by the way. And once again, a lot of people complaining about towers and having that feeling of not really wanting to continue progressing through the endgame once they reach it and really enjoying the campaign itself. I get that sentiment. I really do. I have the goal of beating the Arbiter of Ash, and I've been loving Abyss, so I've been having fun so far. I'm sure that'll fade over time, and I'll get to try out another build and step away from my Hollow Palm Monk. Now, despite all these issues, we are in agreement that there were many wins in this Path of Exile 2 patch, and let's talk about a few of them briefly right now, just listing them off. Number one, I think, is the market. The market is going to increase the amount of time this league is going to be alive for a lot of players, and it's going to allow many players to just hop in very late and participate in the trade economy. I love that, especially as someone who will have less and less time as the league progresses. Maybe, unless I just don't want to get sleep for the next 3 months. Number two is crafting. It's something that even I have been able to engage with, and I don't have that whole breadth of knowledge about the crafting systems. I've just been using Desecrate, the Abyssal Omens, regular Omens, and the Perfect and Greater's Orbs to make some actually pretty busted items. And I've been selling them too and making some sweet, sweet Exalted Orbs. I've seen this sentiment shared from my close friends and family who play the game, plus in lots of comments as well. People feel as though they can engage in the crafting system and make better upgrades than they could before to a much better degree. Also, I forgot to mention essences. Essences are great as well, especially the greater ones. Resistances, by the way, very easy to max out. I like that. Feels a lot more Path of Exile 1-esque. You also have the great crafters among us, like Localhole, loving the crafting system right now, even though he still wants an alteration orb. It's a good sign when people who aren't super engaged in the crafting and are super engaged in the crafting are really loving what Grinding Your Games has done here. I hope that they don't nerf this into the ground. I've seen some people, especially blasters, saying they're gonna destroy this. This is way too powerful. People are able to make awesome items. Okay. Cool. I like that I'm able to make awesome items. It's great. They just need to keep adding higher and higher ceilings for the awesome items you can create and make sure it's very RNG dependent at that high ceiling. Perhaps with the Desecration and the power of the Abyssal mods, I think those could be toned down a little bit. I think it's a very, very, very deterministic to get even those good mods if you have the proper omens. But everywhere else, please, 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 please leave us alone. I don't know how many people are going to agree with me there. We'll have to see. Do you think crafting is too powerful? Please tell me. Tell me in the comments below. I really like it in its current state. Okay, now we have to talk about it as well. The campaign, Act 4 as an addition, and the interludes. This has been divisive, but not for the reason you may think. Many people loved Act 4. Many people enjoyed the interludes, including myself. However, the opinion has been expressed, including by many prominent voices in the community and lots of people in the comments and on Reddit, that the campaign is getting too long, or it will be too long once Act 5 and Act 6 are in the game, and there needs to be an option of some sort to skip the campaign. And this comes in many different forms. Some people think the campaign should be skippable if you've completed it once across your account. Some people think you should be able to skip the campaign if you've beat it once in the league. And then, of course, on the other side, there are the campaign purists who think you shouldn't be able to skip it ever. Hey, what's going on? Campaign purist here. And then there are people in the middle who are saying, okay, maybe you have to play through the campaign, but you can skip big parts of it if you manage to beat this really tough dungeon or set of encounters. Or there have been some people with interesting ideas, like there being alternate leveling paths that aren't just mapping, but the interludes, or many different interludes that you have to complete instead of the campaign itself, with very tight stories, not lots of running back, not lots of dialogue. It's just brief quests going through all these disparate areas with retooled assets in the ways that interludes 1, 2, and 3 are, and with mechanics that relate to the endgame a little bit more than the regular campaign. And that actually seems like a pretty cool idea, and I think Grinding Your Games might be able to pull it off. All that's to say, I'm just curious about the Talkative Try community's opinion, or anybody who's watching this, your opinion, because I'm going to make a Giga video breaking all this campaign skip, no campaign skip, maybe a little bit of both, in a future video, and I'm really interested in reading lots of opinions on it and highlighting them in the future. So if you'd like to leave a 1-sentence quip about how terrible the campaign is or how amazing it is, or write out an essay, please do so right now. We are now on Twitter looking at the Path of Exile Twitter account because I'd like to highlight that aside from hot fixes and one decently sized patch, Grinding Your Games has been extremely silent on this successful league. Why? Well, I've been pretty vocal that I think there should be future patches addressing performance and balance in the lead up to that December expansion, but they might think this patch is in a good enough spot and have just moved on to working on 0.4 in December, and 3.27 for Path of Exile 1, which should come out in October. I am really keen on seeing some more changes come into the game. I think this patch could have some serious legs for a good chunk of the player base, and for anybody interested in trying out Path of Exile 2, despite the performance issues, I think now is a good time to leap in, especially if December has that chunky endgame expansion we're all waiting for. Okay, as promised, we need to talk about the community sentiment and reception to this patch as a whole. Because on day one, there were crash outs, there were people mad, there were people who were white knighting, there were people who were blackguarding, and now that's all chilled out, and there's not really a lot of polarization with this patch. Like I said, it's evident what the problems with Path of Exile 2 are, but more importantly, I think almost the entire community, content creators, streamers, people posting on Reddit, the forums, Twitter, just in-game, in Discord channels, are all on the same page on where Path of Exile 2 needs to go and what the future of the game is. I don't think this was true after 0.1 and the subsequent mini patches there, or after 0.2, its disastrous launch, and the relatively large patches that followed it up. I can see it now, on the horizon, 0.4, an incredibly clear future for Path of Exile 2. And I love that. And I'm so glad that despite a little blip of drama in the community to start off this league, everybody's pretty chill and just excited to sail toward that horizon. Whether it's grinding your games, big creators, or just all the hundreds of thousands of players who have played or are going to play Path of Exile 2 in the future. Welcome aboard, everybody. It's going to be quite the journey, especially given the crazy state of Path of Exile 2 0.3 the Third Edict right now. If you'd like to be a part of the adventure and see all this game has to offer, I think it's going to be quite the bright future, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this. Hit the sub notification bell and the like button right now to send this video to as many exiles as possible. I hope this was a concise, informative, and entertaining look at what Path of Exile 2 is like right now. If you have any critiques, feedback for the game, for myself, make sure you leave them in the comments below. And I will see you in the next video, which is probably a podcast with King Kongor or Balor Mage or somebody else. Thank you so much. If you watch it, that'd help me out a bunch. As always, have fun, my fellow exiles, and stay sane. Ooh.